Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Cabin Fever Crochet with me, Helene, here on this beautiful afternoon. Spring is back. I think and I hope it's here to stay this time. I do have some information that I want to share with you initially, so at least then you'll know where we're going with this and what you can do with it yourself. Alright, so this is another Willow pattern, and it is called the CAMINO scarf, or as I call it, a shawl, shawlette, or wrap, as in the title. It's an absolutely lovely crescent-shaped pattern, and the design goes about halfway down my back, but of course it's going to depend on your body type, your height, and your shape and everything, how it will fit you. But I have received, as always, permission from Willow, from Hirschner's, to use their free pattern and a tutorial and be able to change it and modify it. I have done that in this pattern here and there, and then a fair amount at the end to work for a lot of different sizes and shapes. Oh, just to let you know too, I'm not sponsored in any way. I have purchased all these materials with my own money, although I wouldn't mind being for some of these projects. And I also give you an alternate border. Now the pattern, you can go to Hirschners.com or Willow.com, and I will leave the link below for you, and you can print out the free pattern, the CAMINO scarf, and as pictured, the original pattern shows a fringed version. And I first started out with having to modify it to fit around my body. And then I modified it to extend with an optional scalloped version on the end that gives a lot of flounce, a medium, or just a small amount, more like a wave. In the first one that I did, it really only came to about here on my shoulders. And I thought, well, this seems like it would fit more for a very small, petite person. And so for me, I have broad shoulders, have to take in consideration my bust line and everything, and just the way that I wanted it to fit. So I incorporated all those changes into the pattern that you'll see. I'm going to leave timestamps for each sequence in the description box for you, so that way you can rewind, go back to that exact same spot, know where you are. And for yarn, I recommend more of a lighter weight yarn, from say a number 1 to a number 3 light, the lighter end of number 4. And a yarn that's not real tightly spun, that it has a little bit of kind of loft and openness to it, because that is really going to help bring out the stitches and give you nice texture and body to it, and especially on my version with the scalloped edge. And this one, and I've done several in the Red Heart It's a Wrap excuse me, and this is It's a Wrap Sprinkles Plum Pudding. Now, I did a video recently giving you some practical tips and fixes on working with this yarn along with the review. If you haven't worked with it before and want to for this project, I will leave a link below to that as well, because it might help you out. Now, usually I use a 4 or a 4.5 millimeter G plus hook for the Red Heart It's a Wrap. However, I tried it in this one with an H, a 5 millimeter hook. Just going up that 1 or half of a hook size really made a difference, opening up even more the stitches. But for average, I would go back down to probably a 4.5 millimeter. This is what I had left over. When I got to the last row, I cut because I wanted the darker end on the bottom, as you can see. If you need to go a size beyond what I've done and explained, that you will probably need 2 cakes for that. And this is Lion Brand Shawl in a Ball, or Shawl in a Cake. And again, that was the first one I did, and I absolutely love it. So it's breathable, it's lightweight. Now the Red Heart, it's a wrap of the yarns I've used so far. This is the most lightest and airiest and just puddles down to just a little bit of nothing. I'm going to stand up and just show you where this one hits me, and then I'll switch, show you that one, and then one more. And because this is considered a number 4 weight, but it's a roving type yarn, so it gets thinner and thicker in spots, I tried it, turned out great, was easy to work with as far as this pattern goes, and it took one plus a little more into the next cake to do the fringe. Another one I made, and this is a Willow yarns. This is Willow Wheels. This is the color Kingfisher. And if you watched my kind of mini Willow haul where I ordered the wool blend grab bags, this color came in it. It's 30% wool, 70 acrylic. I'm real sensitive, and I tell you, I cannot feel the wool at all. This is so soft. It's pretty lightweight. Wonderful drape. I definitely recommend this yarn for it. So you'll have a pen, piece of paper, and for tools, a row counter, or again, something to write with to keep track, a few stitch markers, and the hook size that you are going to go with. Okay, well, let's get to the tutorial then. I'm going to be working in Premier DK Colors. Love this yarn, anti-pilling, 100% acrylic, very soft. It's a number 3 weight. I'm really curious how this is going to work up. Been wanting to use this colorway called Sunshine for a while. So we're going to see just how far 383 yards and 5 ounces gets us. Okay, calls for a 4mm G-hook. I went up 1 to a 4.5. I'm kind of thinking might even be able to go up a little bit more, perhaps to an H-hook, but I'm going to give this a try to start because the work looks a little bit tighter when you begin, and as it grows and grows, the stitches open up more. And I'm going to go along. I'm not going to pull the pattern out every time. I'll just go row by row. So if you're following along, I do want to show you at the very beginning on the left-hand side in the first box at the bottom where it says gauge. Seems to me the wording is reversed. 5 repeat and 1 rows equals 4 inches in the pattern. So I believe it should read instead 5 rows and 1 repeat equals 4 inches. That makes more sense to me in the wording and also how the pattern is structured. Alright, so grab your yarn, leave enough tail to weave in, make a slip knot however you do yours. And now the pattern says to chain 6. Don't chain them tight. All right, and then we're going to work row 1, and you begin in the 1, 2, 3, 4th chain from the hook. And because I've made this several times, I have found that if you start in the back bump, just turn your work, and it's the loop that sticks up in the center a little bit. It gives you a much smoother edge going across the top. So in that 4th chain from the hook, work 2 double crochet into that same chain, 2 double crochet into the next, and then 3 double crochet in the last. Okay, that's it for row 1. Oh, and you should have 8 stitches at the end of row 1, 8 double crochet. Okay, turn, go from right to left. That way your working yarn is in back and you don't have a extra loop or hump from it crossing over in front of you. Right, so row 2, going to chain 4, and your chain 4 counts as your first 3 chains is your first double crochet, and the 4th chain is your chain 1, and then you're going to place a double crochet in that very same first stitch. And now you've created your first V-stitch. And this is what we're going to be working a lot of in this pattern, a series of V-stitches. And then we're going to work a V-stitch in each double crochet, each stitch all the way across, including the top of your chain 3, your turning chain at the end. Okay? So in the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet into the same stitch. Next stitch, and going through both loops now, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Made my 3rd V-stitch. Continue this all the way across. Did my chain 1, double crochet, next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now I'm up on my second to last, the last full stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then now at the top of the turning chain, so there's 3 chains, go through the top of both loops. Might have to turn your work like I did, and then again double crochet, chain 1, and place another double crochet into that same stitch. And now we have completed row 2. You should have 24 stitches now. That will be 16 double crochets and 8 chain 1 spaces going all the way across. Now onward to row 3, turn your work, and this time you're going to slip stitch into that chain 1 space. And now row 3 begins our repeat. Our repeats are 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 3, 4, and 5. We're going to do that twice, and then we go on to the finishing rows, and then again, depending on your body size, when we get to that point, then I will show you how you can increase, still maintain the shape to add your width and or your length. Okay, so now we've slip stitched into that chain 1 space. I'm going to chain 4 again. So the first 3 is your double crochet, and then the chain 1 for your V-stitch, and then we're going to double crochet back into that same chain 1 space, and in each chain 1 space all the way across we're going to place a V-stitch. So remember, you're going to have 2 double crochets right next to each other, the end of one V-stitch and the beginning of another not separated by a chain one, so don't accidentally crochet in between those two double crochets. You're just going to be working into each chain one space all the way across. Okay? Alright, so you're skipping over those two double crochets and into the next chain one space, just double crochet, chain one, double crochet. That's all you're going to do all the way across. Skipping those two into the chain one space, double crochet, chain one, double crochet. The next, double crochet, chain one, double crochet. So finish that all the way across in each chain one space to the end. And after the previous row that we did, row 2, the pattern does not say to turn your work anymore. So just know that that's a given. That's what you do in this pattern. And it does not give the stitch count after that point as long as you maintain the pattern. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish mine, and I will meet you at the end. Now we are moving on to row 4. Okay, so let's see, where was I? Turn your work. Chain one. This is a fun one. This creates that nice scalloped poofy edge. And we are going to single crochet into that chain one space, 3 double crochets, and single crochet all into that chain one space. Don't make them tight, okay? And that's what you're going to do in each chain one space all the way across. And again, make sure you're going into the center of the V-stitch and not in between. Because remember, I said as our work grows, the stitches open up a little bit, and it's easy if you're just moving right along and you've got the rhythm and the pattern down more to accidentally go in between. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on your placement. Okay, so I'll do this with you a couple more times. Single crochet, 3 double crochets, and 1 single crochet in each chain one space across. So then you're going to be skipping the next 2 doubles and going in the center. Okay? Single crochet, 3 double crochets, and 1 single crochet. Now turn your work, chain 5, the chain 5 is 1 chain for your turning chain and 4 chains, which is in the pattern going all the way across. And now you're going to skip 1 double crochet. Remember, you have 3, 1, 2, 3, and in the middle of the 3 you're going to place a single crochet, always going through both loops unless indicated otherwise. And now you're just going to chain 4 and single crochet into the middle, skip 1, there's your second double crochet, there's your third, single crochet in that middle one. That's all you're going to do all the way across. Chain 4, single crochet into the center, double crochet of each of these scalloped stitches going all the way across. When you get to the end, you chain 2 And then it says to double crochet into the last stitch, and the last stitch is that first single crochet that we made on the previous row. Kind of hides down there, alright? So don't miss that stitch. Don't think it's this double crochet right next to the one we did, because that's our center one. This is the third one. And hiding down there a little bit is the single crochet, but it is there. So that's something you're going to have to remember and watch for on every row 5. Yeah, row 5. So double crochet, and that's going to bring you up to the height with all the rest. See? And if it helps, beginning of row 4, you can always place a little stitch marker down there to help you to remember that. Okay? Alright, so we've completed row 5. Turn your work. Row 6, what we're going to be doing is a pretty big increase, and we're going to be placing 2 V-stitches in every chain 4 space going all the way across, and the chain 2 space at the beginning. Okay? And this is where there is what I believe is an error, and I'll explain that when we get to the end. Alright, so the pattern says to slip stitch into the first chain 2 space, a chain 4, and again that first chain 3 is a double crochet and a chain 1, and then you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, and a double crochet all into that same stitch. So for me, it was easier to think of as placing 2 V-stitches when I was reading the pattern, and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so in the next chain 4 space, and in each space all the way across, we're going to double crochet, chain 1, again 2 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet. That's how the pattern reads. So for me, to make it a little bit easier to click in my mind, I'm simply just going to place 2 V-stitches in each chain 4 space across. Okay? So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, there's 1 V-stitch, and again double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, there's your second V-stitch. Alright, so again, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and in the same stitch do that again, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, just as we've done before, placing 2 V-stitches in each chain 4 space all the way across. And then I'll see you at the end, and I'll explain what doesn't quite kind of jive with me in the written pattern. Alright, here we are at the end of row 6. I've completed the stitches as stated in the pattern in each chain 4 space, and it says at the end in the last chain 2 space. Well, there is no chain 2 space. This is a chain 4 space plus the 1 chain we did is the turning chain, because whatever you did at the beginning of the previous row is what you're going to work into at the end of your current row. And I've tried that. I even tried thinking, well, maybe, you know, the two of the chains work into the turning chain. Is that supposed to be a chain 2 space? And it just didn't work out. It made the pattern way too curved, and it didn't lay right, and it threw the whole shape off. So I went with just counting this last chain 4 plus your turning chain, the chain 5, as my last stitch, and it works up really nicely and evenly on both sides. Okay, so my last double crochet, chain 1 double crochet for the first V-stitch, and then now my second V-stitch. See? And if I fold this in half right from the center point, there, well, that's a little loose because of my loop, but you see, there is the center exactly, and they line up. Row 7 to 13 in the pattern is a repeat of rows 3 through 6, which is what we just did, and then 3 through 5. So I'm going to go over these one more time briefly to get you started, and then show you what we do from there, and then I'll leave you to finish your work as it grows, and then come back towards the end if you need to add more length or width, and then show you how I do the alternate finishing rows. Alright, so now we're going to begin with rows 3 to 6. So you go back to row 3, turn your work, and you can even place a stitch marker if you want to mark where your rows are. So this is 1, 2, here's 3. And if you have different colors, you can color code them. But as long as you mark your first row, row 3, you know, okay, that's where we do the V-stitch. Row 4 is, I'm calling this a scallop stitch. Row 5 is the chain 4 and single crochet. And then row 6 is the 2 V-stitches. Alright, so here we go. We're repeating rows 3, 4, 5, and 6. Slip stitching into that first V-stitch. We're going to chain 4 because we're starting again with the single V-stitches, and that's your first double crochet in your chain 1, and double crochet again into that first stitch, and then place 1 V-stitch in each chain 1 space across. Always remember you're skipping those 2 double crochets going into that chain 1 space. Don't make that boo-boo now that I pointed out. Alright, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. That's it on this one, all the way across. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and every V-stitch all the way across. So technically this is now row 7, repeating row 3. So I will meet you at the end, and we will begin row 8, which is a repeat of row 4. End of row 7, now we're beginning row 8, repeating row 4, and this is where we chain 1, single crochet into that first chain 1 space. Now you're going to make your 3 double crochets all into that same space, and your single crochet. So you should have 5 stitches. You're going to do this in each chain 1 space across. As always, make sure you're going in the middle of the V-stitch and not in between. Alright, so do it one more time. Single crochet, 3 double crochets, and 1 single crochet all into each chain 1 space going all the way across. That's all you do. Okay. See you on the other side. I'm at the end of row 8, same as row 4. Now we're going on to row 9, same as row 5. That's the easy, well, fast, easy one. Remember, chain 5. That's your turning chain and the chain 4 to get you across to that center double crochet where you're going to single crochet in each one. Chain 4 now, single crochet in the center of the next, and that's what you're going to do all the way across. Chain 4, single crochet in that center double crochet. Remember, you have the 3. 1, 2, there's your center, and there's the 3. And again, I hope you could see that pretty well. And then again, when you get all the way to the end, you chain 2 after you've chained your 4. You did your last single crochet into the center, then you chain 2 and double crochet into the last stitch, which is your single crochet at the end. Remember when we did that? Back here. Alright, that's what you're going to do again. Okay, and I will meet you at the end. I am at the end of row 9, same as row 5. Alright, finish the last with you together. This is where we chain 2, double crocheting into that single crochet at the very end next to your last double. Now we're going to move on to row 10, which is the same as row 6. So that is our increase. We're going to turn. Whenever you're doing the V-stitch, whether it's the 1 V-stitch or the 2, you're always going to slip stitch into that chain 1 space, and then you chain up 4, which is your 3 of your first double crochet in the chain 1. Alright, and then you're going to place another double crochet, so that's your first V-stitch, and then again double crochet, chain 1, double crochet for your second. That's just the beginning stitch on the end, and then in every chain 4 space across you will place 2 V-stitches. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and again double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. That's it. That's it on this row all the way across. It's so exciting when the color changes happen. I love that. Alright, so I will see you when I come back around at the other side. I've finished row 10, same as row 6, with our 2 sets of V-stitches in each chain 4 space all the way across. And now for rows 11, 12, and 13, all you do is repeat rows 3, 4, and 5. That's it. Row 3 is the V-stitch. So again, you turn, you slip stitch into the chain 1 space, chain up your 4, double crochet back into the same space, and then in each chain 1 space all the way across you're going to do your V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Row 4 is where you turn, you chain 1, and you place a single crochet, 3 double crochets, and single crochet in each V-stitch all the way across. Alright, chain 5, and that's easy to remember. Chain 5, you chain 5. And that is your chain 4 plus your turning chain. And then you're going to single crochet in the center of each double crochet all the way across. And remember, at the end, you chain 2 and you double crochet in the last stitch, which is the last single crochet of the previous row, that scallop stitch. That's it. 3, 4, and 5. A V-stitch row, scalloped row, and your chain 4 row. So I'm going to do mine. You go ahead and do yours. I'll meet you there, and that will take us to row 14 already. Let's move on now to row 14. Row 14 is essentially the same as our repeat row 3, except for instead of slip stitching into a chain 1 space, we are slip stitching now into the chain 2 space, which we did at the end of our previous row, row 13. So we're going to slip stitch, and now we're going to create our V-stitches, 1 in each chain 4 space across, and that's what's going to straighten that out a little bit, pull out some of that slack. Okay, so as always, you chain 4 for your first double crochet in the chain 1, double crochet into that same space, and again 1 V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. This is what you're going to do now in every chain 4 space all the way across. Jump on over to each chain 4 space. That's all you do all the way across, and make sure you get that last one. And after you've finished row 14, rows 15 through 21 are exactly the same as rows 7 through 13. You will repeat rows 3 through 6 and then 3 through 5. And if you've marked your spot, and you can carry that up as you go to remind you, that row 3 of the repeat, that is always your single V-stitch. I will meet you at the end of row 21. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And if you need to rewind, and I've left the timestamps for you where each repeat, each sequence is, if you need to watch that over again. All right, I will see you at the end of row 21. Okay, here we are at the end of row 21. When your work is laying flat on the table, you're going to have a much more exaggerated crescent, but of course when it's on your body, going across the top is going to straighten out more, and then it will curve as it goes around your shoulders. And then now on the original pattern, it is only 9 inches from the top to the bottom, not including the fringe. So this, as it is now, is still, it's only 11 inches or 28 centimeters from top to bottom. And so you can imagine if that's 2 inches shorter, then how much more narrow it's going to be, in the same scale on the sides as well. Now we begin row 22. Row 22 is a repeat of 14, and just as we've done before, you're going to slip stitch into the chain 2 space, chain up 4, that counts as your first double crochet and your chain 1, and then double crochet into the same space. It's your first V-stitch, and then you're going to V-stitch all the way across into every chain 4 space. Okay, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And I will meet you at the end of row 22 and then we'll carry on. We're at the end of row 22 and now we're going to begin row 23, and this is going to be for everyone, which is repeat row 3. So you're going to turn your work, oops, and slip stitch into that first chain 1 space, chain 4, double crochet in the same chain 1 space, made a V-stitch, and then again V-stitch in every stitch across. V-stitch in every stitch across, just like we've done. Okay, this is for all sizes. If you're making the smaller version and you want to have the scalloped edge, then go back to the timestamp in the description box for the finishing row, my extended version of row 4. If you are working the original smaller version with fringe, finish this row all the way to the end and then stop. Fasten off, then go ahead, cut your yarn for the fringe to the desired length you want and however many for the fullness. Insert them and knot off as you normally would in each chain 1 space all the way across. All right, now for the other size, which will fit a real broader range, a variety of people, then you will carry on with me from here. Okay, so I will finish each of those with you. I've come to the end of row 23. Now we are beginning row 24, and that's simply a repeat of row 4. And just as we've done before, I got ahead of myself, chain 1, and this is where we single crochet, 3 double crochets, and single crochet in every chain 1 space all the way across, creating our little scallops. Okay, so single crochet, 3 double crochets, and single crochet in each chain 1 space. Here we are now at the end of row 24. Yay! Beginning row 25, which is a repeat of row 5. Turn your work, and now we're going to chain 5, which is a chain 4 plus our turning chain, and this is one where we single crochet into the center of the set of 3 double crochets. Chain 4, single crochet in the middle, the second double crochet in this scalloped section, and that's what we do again all the way across. I will meet you at the end of row 25. I'm at the end of row 25, and remember, when you get to the end after you've done your last single crochet, you will chain 2 and then double crochet into that very first stitch, which is the single crochet. So double crochet in that, and now we are moving on to row 26, which is a repeat of row 6, but we're going to change that up a little bit. Turn your work. Now, to remind you, row 6 is where we do the 2 V-stitches in each chain 4 space all the way across, including the chain 2 at the end. Now, if you want a really roughly finished piece, or you need the extra width to go around your shoulders, then you would do the regular row 6 where you do the 2 V-stitches in each. If you want a little bit less than an every, but still a very full ruffle, then you will do 2 V-stitches in the first, 1 V-stitch in the second, 2 V-stitches, 1, 2, 1. So you will alternate in every other row. Now if you want your finished work to have more of a wave and a gentle ruffle, not so close together, then you will do 2 V-stitches in every third row all the way across. So you'll do 2 V-stitches, 1 V-stitch, 1 V-stitch, 2 V-stitches, 1 V-stitch, 1 V-stitch, and that's what I'm going to do here. Alright, so as we've done before, you will slip stitch into the chain 2 space, chain up 4, which is your first double crochet in your chain 1, double crochet in the same space, and then again another V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now I'm going to do 1 V-stitch in the next chain 4 space, and a V-stitch, just one of them, in the next chain 4 space. And this might also depend on the type of yarn you're using and the hook size. If you are using a larger hook size, say your chain 4 here is less loopy, you can see just kind of loopy because they're close together, that makes sense, rather than stretched out, then you might need to do the 2 V-stitches in every stitch across. You can do a little bit of a sample of it, work some of them, and see how that lays either way, and then you can decide from there. I'm doing a swatch within your own work. But do enough so you can get the fullness of it to really be able to see. So now I'm back to 2 V-stitches in this chain 4 space. There's my second one. And I will place 1 V-stitch in each of the next 2. So this is my sequence all the way across. If you're unsure of which way to go, then I recommend just doing every other. 2 V-stitches in one, 1 V-stitch in the next, 2 in one, 1 in the next. So if you don't want to do a swatch, you're really unsure of how it's looking, what will be the best way, I think that would be really good as a good mid-range for everyone. Alright, so I'm going to complete this row, and I will see you at the end of row 26. And we're at the end of row 26. Before we begin row 27, I just want to show you that how mine is looking. As you can see, I still have a nice ruffly flounced edge. Okay, alright, so hang on, I'm going to zoom back in again. Okay, now turn your work. For row 27, whether you are doing the fringed version or the extended scalloped version, everyone will do a repeat of row 14, which is 1 V-stitch in every V-stitch all the way across. Okay, alright, so like we've been doing, slip stitch into your first chain 1 space, chain 4, double crochet in the same space, and 1 V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the next space, and in every chain 1 space all the way across. Alright, so go ahead and work 27 a V-stitch, and then that's up to you whether you want to add 1 more row or end it there for the fringed version. And then if you are doing the extended scalloped version, then you finish this row 27, and then row 28 will be our last and final row with the scalloped edge. Alright, so I will see you at the end of this row 27. I'm at the end of row 27, and we are now going to begin row 28, our final row. I am doing the extended scallop version, and I meant to tell you that on the row before this 27, the last one that we just did, that is where I ran out of yarn in my first cake about 2/3 of the way through the row. All right, you ready? Okay, turn your work. Now we are repeating for our final row, row 4, which was the single crochet, 3 double crochet, single crochet in every V-stitch across. This time around, so instead of single, we're going to start with half double crochet, and instead of the 3 doubles, we're going to do 3 triple crochets and then 1 half double. Half double, 3 triple, half double. We are still just going to chain up 1 and do 1 half double crochet, triple. Make sure you get your loops the same height as your hook, and don't do these tight, because otherwise your little scallop might start to curl a little bit. Okay, that was 1. Here's 2. It'll help keep the work smooth and flat. There's the 3rd one, and 1 half double. The only thing is, if you are running kind of short on your yarn, you may not have enough to finish this entire width, then you can certainly do the regular row 4, single crochet, 3 doubles, single crochet. Either or, your preference. Alright, so again, 1 half double crochet in the next V-stitch, 3 triples. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then 1 half double. That's it, all the way across. That helps it stand out, you know, it grounds the work, it gives you a nice good base, and to me it helps the rest of the stitches pop because you have something that's a little bit different, prominent here, that's the same but kind of contrasting, and it brings everything else out, and I think it pulls it all together too. I'm outside now finishing up, so hopefully you can hear me okay. I've come to the end of my last row, row 28 that I have done, with my half double, the 3 triple crochets, and my last half double. And to end, all you do is just slip stitch into that same space, cut your yarn, and then I just tie it, you know, put a little knot or however you do it, and then sew in my ends. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to show it to you in all its full glory here. And then just to real quick go over as far as if you steam block, or not block, but just, you know, just steam out the end a little bit. And it'll wind up looking a little more like this scallop where the fibers are relaxed, opened up a bit, and what that's going to do is add a little bit of width and length. So if you do this to your entire piece, the same will happen. You know, it'll open up all the fibers, or as much as you want to do, but if you need a little bit of extra width or length, that's another way to go about that. Okay, I've finished. Here she is. Isn't she lovely? I really like the way it came out. I'm quite pleasantly surprised in the color Sunshine. And it's going to grow a little bit when I steam it out a little bit. Not too much though. I just want to mostly open up the bottom stitches, because I think the rest look pretty good as they are when it's laid out on the body. Okay, well that's it. That's it for now. Take care, everyone. I hope you're doing well. All right, I will see you soon.